There are over 100 officially recognized beer styles in the world, and right now, the United States alone has more than 9,000 craft breweries actively making them. 9,000. That's more breweries than any other country on Earth. And yet most people order the same 2 or 3 beers for their entire lives without knowing what's actually sitting on the shelf next to them. That ends today. We're going through every major beer style. What makes it different, what it tastes like when you drink it, and why it exists. By the end of this video, you'll be able to walk into any bar, any bottle shop, any brewery tap room, and actually know what you're looking at. Not just the name on the label, the beer inside the glass. Let's start at the very foundation, because almost everything in the beer world splits into 2 giant families, lagers and ales. Get this wrong and you'll misunderstand half the menu forever. The difference comes down to yeast and temperature. Ale yeast ferments warm, fast, and at the top of the tank. Lager yeast ferments cold, slow, and at the bottom. That's it. That single difference creates 2 completely different flavor worlds. Ales are fruity, complex, sometimes funky. Lagers are clean, crisp, and smooth. Neither is better. They're just built differently. Lager is the most consumed beer style on the planet. Budweiser, Coors, Miller, Corona, Heineken, all lagers. Every macro beer you've ever seen advertised during a football game is almost certainly a lager. The reason? Cold fermentation produces a cleaner flavor that's easy to drink, easy to mass produce, and easy to market to millions of people. Lager was commercialized in 19th century Bavaria and spread to America through German immigrant brewers in the 1840s. By the early 1900s, it had taken over. It never left. Now, inside the lager family, the most important sub-style to know is the Pilsner. And here's where a lot of people get confused. Not all lagers are Pilsners, but all Pilsners are lagers. A Pilsner is a pale lager with a very specific character: golden color, bright carbonation, a clean malt backbone, and a noticeable hop bitterness that finishes dry and snappy. The original Pilsner was born in 1842 in Pilsen, in what is now the Czech Republic. The Czechs were so disgusted by the cloudy, inconsistent beers of the time that they hired a Bavarian brewer, built a new brewery, and accidentally invented the most copied beer style in history. Czech Pilsners are soft and slightly sweet. German Pilsners are drier and more aggressively bitter. American Pilsners, your Bud Lights, are lighter, crisper, and made with adjuncts like corn or rice to keep the body thin and the price low. Märzen, also called Oktoberfest, is another lager style, but this one carries some real history. Before refrigeration existed, Bavarian brewers couldn't make beer during summer because the heat would ruin the fermentation. So they brewed a big batch in March. That's Märzen, from the German word for March. Stored it in cool alpine caves through the summer, and tapped it in the fall. Amber in color, malt forward, with a slightly toasty, bready sweetness and very little hop bite. Smooth going down. This is the beer you'd get at the original Oktoberfest in Munich, a festival that started in 1810 as a royal wedding celebration and somehow never stopped. Today, Americans drink over 7 million gallons of beer during Oktoberfest season every year. Bock is another German lager, and this one is stronger. A traditional Bock clocks in around 6 to 7% alcohol by volume, with a dark amber color, rich malt flavor, and almost no bitterness. It was originally brewed by monks in the 14th century as liquid bread, something to get calories from during fasting periods. Then there's Doppelbock, double Bock, which pushes the alcohol even higher and the flavor even richer. Paulaner Salvatore is the classic example. If you want a beer that tastes like caramel, dark bread, and a little dark fruit all at once, a Bock is your answer. Now here's where things get exciting, because when you cross into the ale family, the flavor range explodes. The ale family starts with what most people think of when they hear craft beer, and the single most ordered craft beer style in America is the IPA, India Pale Ale. The Brewers Association reports that IPA accounts for roughly 1 in every 4 craft beers sold in the United States. 1 in 4, and it earned that position by being the most punishingly hoppy beer style ever created. The origin story is part truth, part legend. The legend says British brewers in the 1800s needed to ship beer to troops stationed in India. The voyage around the Cape of Good Hope took 6 months. Regular ales would spoil, so brewers added massive amounts of hops, a natural preservative, and jacked up the alcohol content to survive the journey. The beer arrived in India more hoppy and boozy than when it left. The soldiers loved it, and the style was born. Historians debate how much of this is accurate, but the hops survived the story either way. A classic English IPA is earthy, herbal, and moderately bitter. American IPAs took that template and went completely sideways, amplifying the hops until the beer is aggressively bitter, piney, citrusy, or tropical depending on which hops you use. West Coast IPAs are the sharp, resinous, bitter ones. Think Lagunitas, Stone IPA, Ballast Point Sculpin. Then came the Hazy IPA, and it changed everything. Hazy IPAs, also called New England IPAs or NEIPAs, came out of Vermont around 2011 from a brewery called The Alchemist. Their beer, Heady Topper, was cloudy, soft, juicy, and barely bitter. Beer lovers drove hours to buy it. It looked like orange juice and tasted like fruit punch made out of hops. The haziness comes from proteins and hop compounds left in suspension rather than filtered out. Today, hazy IPAs are everywhere, and they've introduced a generation of beer drinkers who thought they hated IPAs to a version that doesn't bite their face off. Sitting in the middle of these extremes is the Session IPA, lower alcohol, usually under 4.5%, but still hop forward. Built for drinking 2 or 3 without ending the night early. Session beers as a category are any beer brewed for extended drinking, high flavor, low ABV, and the concept has spread well beyond IPAs into session stouts, session sours, and more. Now let's go darker, because stouts and porters are where beer gets genuinely dramatic. Porter came first, born in London in the early 1700s, popular with the city's working class and market porters, hence the name. Dark brown to black in color, brewed with roasted malts that give it chocolate, coffee, and caramel notes. The stout evolved from the porter, originally called stout porter, meaning a stronger version. Over time, stout broke off into its own category. The most famous stout on earth is Guinness, brewed in Dublin since 1759, served on nitrogen rather than CO2, which gives it that famously creamy, cascading pour. Guinness is actually relatively low in alcohol at around 4.2%. The darkness comes from roasted barley, not from strength. But the stout world didn't stop at Guinness. American craft brewers took the style and went full throttle. Imperial stouts, also called Russian imperial stouts, push the ABV anywhere from 10 to 15% with enormous flavors of dark chocolate, espresso, molasses, and dried fruit. These are sipping beers. 1 pint of a 12% imperial stout hits harder than 2 glasses of wine. Then there's the pastry stout, the most polarizing style in modern craft beer. Pastry stouts are brewed with actual adjuncts: vanilla, lactose, cacao nibs, coffee beans, maple syrup, peanut butter, and yes, sometimes actual pastry. The result tastes less like beer and more like a dessert in a glass. Some are 800 calories a can. They're not for everyone, but the people who love them really love them. Moving out of the dark corner, amber ale sits in the comfortable middle, copper to amber in color, balanced malt and hops, moderate bitterness, easy to drink. Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale, Fat Tire by New Belgium. These are the gateway craft beers, the ones that convert macro lager drinkers without terrifying them. Fat Tire alone sells over 600,000 barrels a year. Brown ale goes a step darker and maltier, nuttier, earthier, with English origins and a low-key sweetness. Newcastle Brown Ale is the classic intro version. American brown ales tend to be a bit hoppier. Barley wine is the beer that most people don't even realize is a beer until they feel it. Strong ale, anywhere from 8 to 15%, thick, chewy, sweet, with intense malt flavors and big hop bitterness to keep it from being cloying. Named barley wine because it's brewed with so much grain that it ferments to wine-like strength. Anchor Brewing's Old Foghorn, Sierra Nevada Bigfoot, these are the American classics. Serve them in a snifter, sip them slowly, treat them like a fine whiskey. Now we cross into the wheat beer universe, and this is where European tradition gets gorgeous. Wheat beers are brewed with a significant portion of wheat alongside barley. The wheat adds haze, a light, protein-driven body, and a distinctive smoothness. German Hefeweizen is the purest expression of this. Hefe means yeast, Weizen means wheat, and the style is built around a specific yeast strain that produces two unmistakable flavor compounds: isoamyl acetate, which smells like banana, and 4-vinyl guaiacol, which smells like clove. You drink a Hefeweizen cold on a hot day, and it tastes like Bavaria handed you something brewed specifically for summer, served in a tall, curved glass, usually unfiltered, hazy, golden. Weihenstephaner, Paulaner, Franziskaner, these are the benchmarks. American wheat beer strips out most of the yeast character and lightens everything up. Blue Moon is the most popular wheat beer in America. Brewed by Coors, served with an orange slice, frequently sold to people who don't know it's technically a craft-style beer made by a massive corporation. Still tastes good. No shame in it. Kolsch is another pale, light, easy-drinking beer, but technically it's a hybrid. Brewed like an ale, then cold-conditioned like a lager. The result is clean like a lager, but with just a hint of fruity ale character underneath. Kolsch is legally protected. By German law, only breweries in Cologne can call their beer Kolsch. It's served in a small, straight, cylindrical glass called a stange, usually 7 ounces, and waiters in traditional Cologne beer halls will keep bringing fresh ones until you place your coaster on top of your glass to signal you're done. American versions aren't technically Kolsch, but get close. Dogfish Head's slightly stronger interpretation, Great Lakes Brewing's Dortmunder Gold. This family of clean pale ales rewards people who think they only like lagers. Belgian beers deserve their own whole video, but let's hit the essentials. Saison started as a farmhouse ale brewed in the French-speaking part of Belgium to give seasonal workers, saisonniers, something refreshing and moderately alcoholic during the harvest. Dry, highly carbonated, spicy, fruity, earthy. Complex without being heavy. Saison Dupont is the gold standard. American craft brewers fell in love with the style because the yeast gives you enormous flavor complexity without needing expensive or rare ingredients. Belgian Double is a darker, stronger Abbey-style ale, around 6 to 8%, with rich flavors of dark fruit, caramel, a hint of chocolate, and a dry finish. Brewed by Trappist monks in Belgium for centuries. The best known is Westmalle Double. These monks aren't hobbyists, they're running some of the most respected breweries on Earth. Only 14 breweries in the world currently hold the Authentic Trappist product seal, and 6 of them are in Belgium. Belgian Triple cranks the intensity up another level, pale golden in color, which surprises most people who expect strong beer to be dark, with an ABV pushing 8 to 10%. Fruity, spicy, sweet, and deceptively easy to drink given how strong it is, Westmalle Triple is the defining example. Chimay White, Allagash Triple from Portland, Maine if you want an American take that's genuinely excellent. Now let's talk about the wild side of beer, sour ales, because this is where fermentation stops following the rules. Sour beers are intentionally acidic, tart, and sometimes funky. They're fermented using bacteria, Lactobacillus, Pediococcus, and wild yeast strains like Brettanomyces, rather than standard brewer's yeast. The sourness can be as gentle as a squeeze of lemon or as face-puckering as biting into a green apple dipped in vinegar. Gose, pronounced Gozu, is a German sour wheat beer, brewed with coriander and salt. The salt isn't a mistake. It came from the mineral content of the water in Goslar, Germany, where the style originated. The salt rounds out the sourness and makes Gose strangely refreshing on a hot day. It nearly went extinct in the 20th century before American craft brewers revived it and turned it into one of the fastest-growing styles on the market. A well-made Gose on a 90-degree Fahrenheit August afternoon is genuinely one of the best beer experiences you can have. Then there's the world of lambic, spontaneously fermented Belgian ales where the brewers literally open the roof of the brewery and let wild microorganisms fall into the wort. No added yeast. Just whatever's floating in the air over the Seine River Valley in Belgium. The result takes years of aging and produces beers of startling complexity. Gueuze, which is a blend of young and old lambic, fruit lambics like Kriek, brewed with sour cherries, and framboise, brewed with raspberries. These are not sweet fruit beers. They are intensely tart, funky, almost wine-like beverages that happen to be classified as beer. American breweries have taken the sour concept and run. Odell Brewing, Jester King, Dogfish Head, Russian River. These breweries have built entire sour programs producing kettle sours, barrel-aged sours, and mixed fermentation wild ales that compete directly with the Belgian classics. So here's the thing about all of this. There's no wrong door into beer. You don't have to earn the right to drink an imperial stout by suffering through bitter IPAs first. You don't have to apologize for drinking Bud Light at a cookout. And you don't have to be an expert to enjoy a $25 Trappist ale on a Friday night. The 9,000 American craft breweries exist because there is genuinely something for every person on Earth in this category, if you know what to look for. The next time you're standing in front of a beer wall that looks like it requires a PhD to navigate, remember the map we just drew. Start at lager versus ale, pale versus dark, hoppy versus malty, sour versus clean. 4 questions, and you've narrowed 100 styles down to 5. Then just try the thing that sounds interesting. The worst outcome is you don't like it, and you know something new about your own taste. The best outcome is you find a beer that genuinely excites you. And once you have that, you'll keep looking. Now I want to know, what's the most interesting or unusual beer style you've ever tried? Drop it in the comments because I'm always looking for something new to track down. If you learned something from this one, hit that like button and share it with the person in your life who always orders the same thing, because after watching this, they have no excuse. And subscribe if you haven't already, because next time we're doing spirits, whiskey, bourbon, scotch, rye, and by the end of it, you'll never look at a liquor store shelf the same way again.